thank you. We just had a little audio check. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. The number one responsibility of any government is to provide safety and security to the citizens. In Trini parlance, that is the work. That's why you ask for the work. That's the number one responsibility of a government. It's like if you cannot keep your population safe, if you fail on national security, it's like a chef being unable to cook. It's like a lifeguard being unable to swim. It's like a surgeon, neurosurgeon with shaky hands. This is totally unacceptable. The PNM has totally capitulated and failed on the fight against crime. It was a very key Christopher Rowley when he was leader of the opposition, before he went to the parliament and desecrated it with lies about Emailgate, who stated categorically that when a government ceases to be able to handle crime and wants to blame everyone else, the government is part of the problem. I put it to you, citizens, that Keith Christopher Rowley and the PNM is part of the criminal problem, the crime scourge that is devastating our country today. Keith Rowley admitted this in a press conference after he spent your taxpayers' money to go all over the world enjoying himself in Ghana, no yam, to India wearing kurta and visiting temples, when he does not do that right here in Trinidad and Tobago, when he does not visit the Diwali Nagar during Diwali to bring greetings. But that is Keith Rowley, the hypocrite that he is. On his return, he said, Prime Minister Keith Rowley, taken from the Express, The Guardian, page 7, Monday, May 20th. After the 10th homicide for the year in Tobago, Prime Minister Keith Rowley is concerned that criminal elements were now operating as if the Twin Island nation was their playground. But as Dr. Munilal said, you are the caretaker. You're in charge of the playground. So if criminals are playing as if it's their own, it means you have failed, Keith Rowley. Rowley acknowledged that crime continued to invade every part of Trinidad and Tobago. Rowley, the Prime Minister, the head of the National Security Council, is making this confession openly. And it's not followed with, I hereby resign and call an election, indicating the Ministry of National Security was responsible for ensuring the protection and security of citizens on both islands. He said, what we are concerned about is the fact that criminals are not confined to any one part of the country. They see the nation as their playground, and they look for opportunities to conduct their nefarious activities. After 9 years of his failed leadership, we, the people, the media, the country, allows him to just state, I have failed. I am a failure. It has gotten worse. You are not safe. Your family is not safe. Your children are not safe. I am the Prime Minister who has presided over this situation. And then you allow him to remain as Prime Minister? Something seems illogical. Rowley continued. Rowley said, the issue of national security was the responsibility of the central government. He vowed, we will discharge that responsibility, and we are prepared to work with any and all citizens. When will you discharge that responsibility? Your Minister of National Security cannot stay awake. He said on TV6 2 years ago, it is not his responsibility to keep the population safe. So you are at loggerheads with your own sleepy body bag Minister of National Security, Fitzgerald Hines. But the situation gets worse, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the killing fields that is Trinidad and Tobago. I'm going to make 7 critical points about the ongoing saga of the SSA. You have been observing that the SSA, previously SIA, Secret Intelligence Agency of National Security, Keith Rowley has said that criminal elements took it over. He also was quoted as saying that there was a threat to national security because of the imbroglio at the SSA. First and foremost, it is Keith Rowley who has overseen the SSA. The SSA has a political jurisdiction and mandate. The National Security Council overlooks it. So if Keith Rowley is saying criminal elements have invaded and taken over the SSA, then Keith Rowley and his Minister of National Security are responsible and must resign. But Rowley said the government was blindsided by the SSA issue. Really? If you are the head of the National Security Council, you are in charge of the SSA, and you are blindsided by anything taking place there, it means that you are incompetent, you are not fit for purpose, and you must resign. Rowley said, also criticizing and showing his abject hypocrisy, while in one statement saying the government was blindsided. In the Guardian, quoted from his press conference, Rowley also said that he was informed early. The Prime Minister said while the government was blindsided, it was informed early that something was amiss at the agency, which he said was approached with vigor and commitment. You can't have it both ways. If you're blindsided, it means you didn't know, you weren't aware, and it hit you like a thief in the night. It hit you by shock. But Rowley is admitting out of his own mouth that he was informed early about something going on at the SSA. But the question arises, who were you informed by, Keith Rowley? Who informed you? Who was guarding the guards? Who was spying on the spy? Who was informing the executive arm, the political arm, about goings on in a national security institution? If police are investigating, the police are an independent unit. They are not to report to the political directorate. Rowley continued. He said, there is an ongoing, very serious investigation that is taking place. And as I said before, some of what has been unearthed in this investigation has been quite troublesome, with impressions of criminal conduct. Rowley also said previously, in March, when this issue came to the forefront in the media, Rowley said, and I quote, that they cited an impending threat to national security as the reason for the decision to suspend Major Best in mid-March. Let me repeat, an impending threat to national security. But I ask you, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, a serious impending threat, what does that conjure in your mind? Maybe large caches of weapons, automatic weapons, submachine guns, and an organization plotting to destabilize the country, maybe explosives, planning, criminal conduct across the board. Those are threats to national security. So I was looking on with great interest, because one must go back and realize who is Keith Rowley, first of all, which I shall do shortly. But when Keith Rowley talks to you, when his mouth moves, you know that he is lying, that he's not telling the truth. So I was waiting to see what would take place. And here in this newspaper, the Newsday, they list the charges on these three gentlemen. And it's sub judice, and I'm not going into that. But I'm dealing with Keith Rowley's words to you at the population, that there was a pending threat on national security, critical nature. Well, these charges involve 2 Sig Sauer, which is 2 9mm gun, 2 more gun, and some ammunition that was transferred among state defense agencies, meaning police to police, but they didn't do the paperwork correct. Now, if it's a criminal charge, let the chips fall where it may. However, I do not think that charge rises to the benchmark of a critical threat of national security, that misbehavior in public office. What might reach that threshold? A prime minister going to a president to intercept an independent merit list to put a commissioner of police based on merit to keep the nation safe, and a prime minister causing the president to cause the chairman of the Police Service Commission to breach her duty and misbehave in public office, breach section 123(4) of the Constitution, The Police Service Commission then collapsed, and the Commissioner of Police, who was ranked number 12, is now the Commissioner, and people are dying in the streets, in the bars, in the groceries. Kidnapping is raising and rearing its ugly head again. Home invasions all across this land. We were without a substantive Commissioner of Police for at least 11 months. Now we have people who are not able to manage and being extended. That is a threat to national security. Not 29mm between police to police, SSA to a guard unit, and police to SSA. If it's a criminal charge, so be it. But something is awry. Cabinet acted, said Keith Christopher Rowley. He said, and I quote, on the fourth point, that Cabinet, without calling Best by name, Rowley said Cabinet did not hesitate to act against those who seemingly fell short in doing their jobs, adding, we expected that we will rectify the agency to its purpose. 2 points. First of all, Rowley, what exactly did Major Best do? He has not been charged, he's been held, accusations have been heard, no accusation has stuck, he has not been charged of anything. How did you determine that he was not doing his job? And who are we to listen to you as Cabinet saying that Major Best did not do his job, so the Cabinet fired him? Okay, let's follow your track record, Rowley. Fitzgerald at Talbot, Bodybag Hines is the worst minister in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. He has broken records for murder rate 622, and we're moving up to 600, over 600 again, since he has come in every arm of the national security system, from lifeguard to army to fire. Everyone is under pressure. There is no service, no safety, no security. Murders, mayhem, kidnappings, everything coming back. But you have not removed him. So is Fitzgerald Hines doing his job? The economy is shattered with the worst Minister of Finance in history, Colin Bird, who cannot even account for $3.4 billion or $1 billion in expenditure, now scrambling to go and dig out people's eye to make sure and try to get the deficit so that he could go and borrow more money so that the PNM could corruptly take it away from future generations. I'm not seeing you firing the Minister of Finance, who is a total failure. What about health? People are going into the health institutions and they're stealing the shoes, used shoes, nurses getting robbed and beaten in the car park, rain falling inside the hospital, no medicine, no oncology drugs, people getting surgeries 3 months, 3 years later, a year and a half later, people trying to switch surgeries in order to impact people's lives. The collapse of the health sector, but the Minister of Death is still there. 21 to 28 babies dead in a NICU, no explanation. People crying, but your Minister of Health is still there. So who is the Cabinet? What sin did Major Best do that you, Rowley, find? He was so incompetent he had to be fired. You have not fired the Minister of Education. We are failing at every level. Lowest results, worst performance in SCA, worst performance in CSEC in Cape, worst performance across the board, lowest enrollment in university and tertiary education, more fights, killing and stabbing in the schools than ever before, total complete failure. But you have not fired your Minister of Education. So who is this Cabinet of failures to fire a man who's not been charged? What is the problem that you have with this SSA, Keith Rowley? Rowley said, we expect that we will rectify and return the SSA, the agency, to its purpose. What is that purpose, Rowley? Is that purpose to serve the people of Trinidad and Tobago, to serve and ensure that criminals cannot kidnap and abuse and terrorize our neighbors and our citizens? What is the purpose? Let's look at Keith Rowley's track record. His purpose is always about himself, to preserve his corrupt government, to stop independent agencies from performing so that he could move towards his total dictatorship, to move us into a failed state. Rowley has shown from time immemorial that any independent officer doing their duty properly, under oath, upholding the Constitution, must be removed. You must breathe the PNM Constitution. You must live the gospel of the PNM. That is the purpose of Rowley. So when Rowley says that he is removing people from the SSA to return it to its purpose, what that tells you, the population, is that whoever was there was doing their job properly, like the Auditor General, was doing their job and their oath to serve Trinidad and Tobago and not serve Rowley, and not serve his nefarious PNM, and not serve his cabinet, and not do his bidding. But Rowley wants to return the SSA to the purpose that Rowley wants. What is that purpose? Could that purpose be to spy on Kamala, to spy on UNC, to spy on dissidents in the PNM, to ensure that political opponents are thwarted, just as Maduro and Delcy do in Venezuela? Let's look at Rowley's track record. Rowley thwarted a merit list because he was not happy with a commissioner of police who he could not control. And he went there, caused the collapse of the Police Service Commission, caused the president to misbehave in public office, breach section 123(4) of the Constitution, so he could handpick a commissioner of police. We've then had two, and now we have one who every single citizen agrees is a complete and total failure. She is not ready for the job. She's not fit for purpose. She has done nothing, and crime has spiraled out of control. Bandits now using the country as a playground because they realize that Erla is a plaything. But what does Rowley do? He extends her again for a second time. Why? Because she's fit for purpose. What purpose? She's fit to Rowley's purpose. She's fit to do his bidding. She's fit to investigate who Rowley says to investigate. She's fit to not investigate Rowley's ministers. She's fit to take instructions from Rowley. That's Rowley's purpose. The Police Service Commission collapsed. People resigned. Rowley appointed a new Police Service Commission to tell Rowley and to dictate and send recommendations as Rowley wants, fit for purpose. Paula May Weeks, for whatever reason, did not want a second term. Maybe it was that on August 11, 2021, she was forced to do something against the Constitution, being a constitutional expert, an attorney, an expert who taught the constitutional law in the law fraternity, who was a High Court justice. Maybe it was that she was upset about having to do that and thwarting the merit list. But what did Rowley do? He found a president that was fit for purpose, one that preaches the gospel of the PNM, and he installed her at President's house. The chairman of the Integrity Commission was conducting his business as he should, as he took an oath on the Bible so to do, to ensure that public officials do not squander, steal, or corruptly enrich themselves, their friends, or financiers. And when investigations were launched into Rowley, when that commissioner's term came up, he was replaced. And who was he replaced by? Somebody fit for Rowley's purpose. The neighbor of Bridget Anisette George, the speaker, and Newman George, Rowley's best golfing friend, and of Paria heritage, and 7 different boards. It is the neighbor of Newman George was put in charge of the Integrity Commission because he is fit for Rowley's purpose. The central bank governor, Jawala Rambaran, was moved and fired, and you have to pay, the citizens have to pay him now because they wanted to put Alvin Hilaire, Rowley's neighbor in Inez Gate, in the central bank. Why? Because that fit Rowley's purpose of control, of dictatorship, of tyrannical oppression. When the board of Petrotrin and the Minister of Energy, the own PNM minister who actually did her job correctly and did an audit into fake oil, she was removed, and another minister was put fit for purpose, but he passed away, and Rowley put a even fitter for purpose minister, his own small pin minister, Stuart Young, who he travels all over the world with. He's fit for purpose, fit for Rowley's purpose, not fit for the nation's purpose. The first board of Petrotrin, who did an audit into fake oil and was trying to preserve and conserve your money and make sure it was not stolen, Rowley removed them and put them fit for purpose. Who you must do Rowley's bidding. That's what the purpose is. When he fired Winfred Espine said under oath in the Labour Court, I never told the cabinet, never told Keith Rowley to shut down Petrotrin. He was fired and removed because Rowley needed somebody fit for purpose. What's that purpose? do Rowley's bidding. He shut down Petrotrin totally and put 11,000 workers, temporary and permanent, out of jobs. And he replaced that with Heritage and Paria and put his own personal lawyer in charge of Heritage. Why? Because he is fit for purpose. And he put Newman George in charge of Paria. Why? Because that's his best friend. They keep secrets. They work and hold each other's secrets together because they are fit for purpose. So Rowley has put people fit for purpose. And now in the SSA, he wants to return the SSA to the purpose for which he wants it. And he has therefore gone about a witch hunt to charge people and all the defense force, all the army, all the security services. All you be very careful. If you're taking a gun, log it back in, fill it out properly, make sure that your comrade, when he get that new gun, all they sign the forms, because Rowley coming after y'all. The Port Authority Board had found vessels, 11 of them. Rowley lied and said they did not. Why? Because they weren't fit for purpose. Rowley wanted to go with Stuart Young down to Australia to drink scotch and eat shrimps and then purchase 2 vessels from Incat and Hostal and 2 cutlass vessels, over $1.5 billion. He wanted to procure without procurement, so the board was not fit for purpose. Same thing with the Sport Company and all those other agencies. They are not fit for purpose. Sport Company was designed with engineers and so on to build, to construct, to tender sporting facilities. Rowley moved that under UDCOT, under Noel Garcia. So Noel Garcia is fit for purpose. He could build airport, health center, police station, hospital, fire station, Magnificent 7, Red House, President's House, Prime Minister residence in Tobago, every community center and every sports stadium, as well as every house being built in Trinidad and Tobago is being built by Noel Las Alturas Greenvale, Rowley's friend, because he is fit for purpose. Now we see the Auditor General, the attack, because all of those people were fit for purpose. The purpose is Rowley's bidding. The purpose is control. The purpose is persecution. The purpose is corruption. And now we see an all-out attack on the Auditor General, trying to create a kangaroo court, an investigation to remove the Auditor General, who simply did her job, who simply wants the PNM government to account for money, who does not want to inflate the revenue figures. Why is IMBA so intent on inflating revenue figures? 2 reasons. One, he told you he has it under control and he is so bright, when he is not, when he is a complete dunce and the deficits have been growing and your country, your future generations will have to pay back. And therefore, if the deficits are high and the revenue is lower, it will be harder for IMBA to borrow. The PNM borrows to steal. They borrow to steal. And if they cannot borrow, if they drop in the credit rating and borrowing becomes harder, it becomes harder for the PNM to steal. That's why they want to inflate without substantiating documents the figures in the Auditor General report. Also, why else are they fighting the Auditor General like this? Because they cannot account for the money. They cannot account for expenditure. The PNM has been procuring without procurement. They put their friends and family in every board. There's one lady, Ingrid Lashley, who when we were in government under Kamala Prasad-Bissessar trying to get 2% loans out to you, the people, to buy houses, first-time homeowners, she refused to implement. Vasan Bharat was unable to make her implement. And she continued year after year to not implement. When PNM won the election, they stole it to the EBC with an extra hour and with lies on Emailgate. Ingrid Lashley was appointed to 9. I repeat, 9 PNM boards. She is a PNM hero because she thwarted the people's purpose. Kamala is about the purpose of the people, serving the people, putting the resources for the people. And that's the difference between Kamala Prasad-Bissessar and Keith Christopher Rowley. And now finally we see, in this entire investigation, we see this lady here. And this lady is very interesting, this figure. Her name now is DCP Suzette Martin. She was recently promoted to Deputy Commissioner of Police by the PNM. who is Suzette Martin. And she is now in charge of the investigation into the SSA that Rowley said was so critical to national security that the charge that come on the train is that they transfer 2 guns and some bullets. When men in the army go and train and shoot bullets and so on all over. If they didn't do the paperwork correct and that's a charge, so be it. But I do not see when bandits are running around with Uzi and AR-15 killing and kidnapping and murdering and jumping over fence. I don't see people in special forces, in agencies, in crime fighting, that is a threat greater over and above the threat of criminals and criminality in this country. But this Suzette Martin, you know who she is? She is the police officer that took instructions from people unknown to go to Barbados to inveigle the Barbados authorities to kidnap one Brent Thomas, because Keith Rowley created and continues to try to create the facade of something being wrong and amiss with FUL. Suzette Martin was the DCP who went to Barbados and kidnapped, with the help of Barbados officials, Barbados Constabulary, Brent Thomas out of his hotel room. He had written to the police saying, if y'all are investigating me and y'all are interested, I'm going to Miami for help. They knew where he was going. They sent Suzette Martin. Barbados has said, we are sorry, mea culpa. They have admitted that they acted contrary to the law. They have admitted and they will have to pay Brent Thomas. Trinidad and Tobago is still appealing, and the appeal comes in June. But this Suzette Martin did the bidding of somebody, some minister, because no police officer could get on a plane, no CARICOM jet could fly into Barbados space and kidnap a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago without the authority of the minister, the cabinet, the National Security Council, the Minister of National Security. But the truth will come. But in the meantime, Suzette Martin is fit for purpose. She fits Rowley's purpose. She did Rowley's bidding to go and kidnap Brent Thomas, and now she's in charge of this SSA investigation that Keith Rowley, a man whose track record I've just listed for you, is telling you that the SSA is not good for you. I put it to you that the SSA was good for you, and they refused to do the bidding, the illegal bidding of Rowley. And now they're being attacked and removed, just like every other independent institution. Anyone who stands up to Rowley is attacked and vilified. There's only one answer. There's only one thing that we can do. We must get rid of Keith Christopher Rowley and the PNM. We must remove them from the political landscape across Trinidad and Tobago. We must vote with this finger, vote with a vengeance. We must riot with our fingers once he dares call that election, because this cannot continue. We are in the throes of a tyrannical, oppressive dictatorship, and the SSA is now another one down for the count. Good morning, God bless, and we're ready for any questions that you may have. Thank you.